Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is ITSS Verona think tank, and today's meeting is hosted by me, Alexandra Tsarvulanova, and my amazing colleague, Sara Pastorello. This is an interview hosted by Russia and post-Soviet team in ITSS Verona, and we are very glad to see today Dr. Arūnas Molis, who is a distinguished expert in the field of energy security and European defense. Dr. Molis currently serves as policy analyst in Lithuania, and he works at Ignitis Group, which is leading energy company in the Baltic region. Dr. Molis also previously held key positions at Klaipeda LNG and NATO Energy Security Center of Excellence. He also served as an advisor to President of Lithuania on energy affairs. So thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us today. We prepared several questions for you to understand energy from three different perspectives: energy as a weapon, energy as a financial tool, and energy as a target, especially in military conflicts. So moving to our first question, we can see a lot of historical examples when energy became important part in armed conflicts worldwide. And especially we can recall examples of OPEC oil embargo in 1973 in Middle East, or Russia and Ukraine gas disputes in 2000s. So we can analyze energy security as part of hybrid warfare, especially with supply threats or disruptions or direct attacks on infrastructure. So coming closer to Ukrainian war, how has Russia used energy supply threats or cutoffs to pressure both Ukraine and European countries during this war?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting, and thank you very much for a very nice presentation. So, yes, I did hold several positions, but of course, the things I tell today, they are very much personal, and it's very much related to my personal view, not so much to the institutions where I work. And while telling this and returning back to your question, I would really say that we understand, all of us understand very well that when we talk about energy, we don't talk only about the resource, right? And we don't talk only about this purely economic matters. The energy and energy supply, production and supply as well is a very strategic thing, and it's very much related to the national interests of the states. And what's happening in the energy sector, it will always have a much broader impact. It will have an impact on the social things, affairs, and decisions. It will have, of course, the impact on the economical situation of the state, and it can also sometimes influence the political stance, conditions, environment, and also the political decisions. So what we currently see actually is really a wish of at least the European Union member states to diversify from the fossil fuel and to diversify, first of all, from the supplies from Russia. And of course, we invest a lot into the renewables, first of all. We invest into the solar, we invest into the wind, we invest into the efficiency, and we try this way to consume less fossil fuel, and we try to consume less energy if that's possible. So that's hardly possible. So at least we try to replace the oil and gas with renewables, and if it's not possible to replace oil and gas coming from Russia with something coming from different destinations, be it from United States, or be it Norway, or be it sometimes even more distant countries. And while telling this, I come to the point that there was a reason actually to diversify. There was a reason to diversify from fossil fuel, and of course to diversify from Russia. And well, the reasons are very different. Well, first of all, I can talk from my perspective, as I'm from Lithuania. So we experienced, of course, several times not only the pressure related to the price. That's the first factor. So it's the price. We were paying the higher price of the natural gas than in comparison to other EU member states. And we were doing that because we were implementing the reforms. We were implementing the third EU energy package. We were constructing the LNG terminal. We were also trying to negotiate the contracts which would be not based on those very famous Gazprom rules like take or pay or the long-term contracts. So we try to, at the time when we were still purchasing gas from Russia, we were trying to deal for the shorter contracts and more flexible conditions. And therefore, at some point you got punished. You were paying a high price, and at the same time, the political requirements were attached to the gas contracts. Maybe they are informal, of course, but also our president was mentioning several times that she got, a direct pressure from the Russian president to postpone some reforms because, some gas supplies could be somehow endangered. Maybe, the price would be higher, and so on, so forth. So therefore, basically, first of all, the countries, while experiencing pressure on supply conditions, first of all, experiencing pressure to pay a high price, started to diversify these energy imports. In addition to that, of course, we saw sometimes really the supply disruptions. Right, so from the very beginning of Lithuanian independence, just a few months after the declaration of our independence, 30 years ago, we experienced first energy blockade, which we never forgot, actually. For several months, not having warm water, not having enough of gasoline, not having enough of gas in the springtime. That's something what stays in your memory for a long period of time. Of course, we remember the times when the oil supply was cut also by the pipeline of Druzhba to Lithuania. So that happened, if I'm correct, in 2006, and this also had a huge impact on our even the political landscape, right, at that time. So almost 20 years ago. The natural gas, first of all, concerned the price, but we saw the supply disruption to other countries. So this is the continuous thing, actually, that you are always living in a danger of being cut off supply, always living in a danger of the prices being increased, and you are always living at the environment where actually, in addition to the contract, you can get also some political requirements. So this all comes from the past. When we talk about the current situation, we also see the new developments. As you talk about Ukraine, so it's quite clearly actually that the energy objects, they become, first of all, the targets for direct military attacks, right? So the refineries, the transformers, the transmission networks, and all this kind of infrastructure is being attacked by the drones, is being attacked by missiles, and therefore actually these sites have to be protected. Some fences have to be constructed. A lot of the additional money has to be invested actually to resist actually the damage which is made directly by Russia. So this also affects us. We see what's happening in Ukraine, and we also have to react to that actually, because maybe we can be the next ones, right? So we are always also trying now not only to invest into the diversification of the energy supply, but we also start to invest in the protection of the sites, right? So trying to secure actually this security of objects, and that's the new factor in our energy security, not only about supplies, but also about protection. And in addition to that, the last thing is, of course, as you mentioned already, those hybrid attacks, right? In the last 14 months, we got 14 cases when the cables under the Baltic Sea got damaged. So either the natural gas pipeline, or the electricity interconnection, or the telecommunications interconnections, they are damaged by the ships, which in one or another way is related to the Russian oil exports from the oil terminals on the Russian side, to the global markets, and those ships going there and there through the international waters, dropping the anchors, and this way basically damaging the infrastructure. So one more thing to consider, what we can do as a state, and what we can do maybe together with our allies in EU and NATO. So that's the broader context.
Thank you very much. So
Thank you.
we have some specific question about the role of direct attacks on energy infrastructure, but it's a bit later. But now we would like to talk more about using, as Russia uses energy exports for funding its operations. So Sara has this question.
Yes, indeed. Like also beyond its political and strategic use in energy is still a major financial pillar of the Russian state and economy. And we see even under heavy sanctions nowadays, oil and gas still continues to fund government operations, including military activity in Ukraine. So we would like to talk a bit more about like how critical have energy exports been in funding this military campaign of Russia.
As you mentioned, actually, it's critical because we saw many figures, and currently the last one I saw actually that the income for the Russian budget from the oil and gas exports makes around 500 million euros daily. So it's a lot. It's being reduced by sanctions, of course. It's being reduced by the dropping oil price as well. But still, actually, this reduction concerns, currently, well, in comparison to the last year, as far as I remember, 12%. So actually, it's still huge. And therefore, the new sanctions are being introduced, and we know actually where is the key problem. The key problem currently is in the shadow fleet of the Russian oil transportation. So basically, this shadow fleet also has to become the object for the sanctions if we want to decrease, effectively the income from this kind of oil of exports from the Russian ports, because otherwise, actually, the money we ourselves are paying, to the Russian budget, from which later on the war is financed. So these sums will exceed all the support we provide to Ukraine, and therefore the figures are it's impossible even to compare them. So still there is a lot of job to do here because well, we are trying to diversify. First of all, maybe diversify the supply destinations, not to buy so much natural resources from the countries which we consider of posing the threat to our national security. So trying actually to take the same oil and gas from other destinations, but still I don't see, a very clear political will to stop all the supplies from Russia. I still see some kind of the need to have the Russian oil in the market. Maybe because of the potential deficit, maybe because of the potentially rising prices, but we are still not serious enough on stopping actually this income to the Russian budget. And to what I come, actually, what I want to stress, that it's still on us, Europeans or Westerners, if you wish, right? So we are still financing the state which is fighting against us, and that's the strangest thing. So one can guess that everything requires time. The diversification of sources, diversification of the import destination requires time. But the war is already ongoing, also not the second month, right? So we already had time for the decision making, but still the the ambitions actually was not high enough, and therefore the decisions in this regard are not the most efficient yet.
Yes, of course. And of course, we can see the whole the changing dynamic in European energy architecture and energy security architecture, especially after the outbreak of Ukrainian war, because the whole economy of majority of European countries was seriously dependent on exports coming from Russia. But in this sense, we would like to ask you about different powers, non-European, but who might have the influence on European general security. So here we would like to refer to recent resource deal between US and Ukraine. And Sarah, here's another question for you.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So in this context of the recent resource deal with Ukraine, but we also seen, like, for instance, US trying to secure critical energy deals with other regions like Central Asia, the Gulf, and parts of Africa. So we wanted to know, in your view, how is this global competition for energy resources reshaping alliances, and if it has become a new front in the wider geopolitical context with Russia?
Well, we have to admit that we don't know much yet about what kind of the deals are really made between the US, Ukraine, and among other countries. Just, when we discuss in general, I think it's still very important actually to have the United States in Europe and to have the US interest actually in everything what happens here in Europe and Ukraine and even wider. The United States is still a very important player. And well, we see actually that the decisions which are taken in the United States, they, as for instance, also very hardly affect actually the oil price. Right, so maybe at some point it has also a negative consequence, but from this point of view, which we discussed today, so it affects the price of oil, and therefore it affects the Russian budget income. And for us in this regard, actually, this effect is positive. Yeah, so the price of oil is dropping, and then therefore the income to the Russian budget is also dropping. And most probably, this way, actually, this kind of a pressure must be kept, and everyone understands very well what's happening. And I think that this positive notion actually between the US and Ukraine also leads to the decisions in the United States, which finally decrease the price and decrease the income to the Russian budget, decrease the price of oil. So therefore, I think that we should still keep the US in the play. And of course, the United States are playing the role as the potential energy, not only potential, but the real one, but in the future also even larger energy exporter, right? And the one which can replace basically the Russian gases, for instance, not only gas but oil. But if I talk about gas, so it's already the fact that instead of having the pipeline gas coming from Russia, currently we in the region, the Baltic states, Poland, and then Poland is also supplying the gas to some other Central Eastern European countries. So we are importing this gas from the United States. And actually to have this possibility is very important for our markets. Not paying the money, to the enemy, and at the same time actually having more stable relations with another strategic partner, United States. So therefore, I would say that from this point of view, to have the US is very important. Now, when we come to the deals which are being made, so we also have to admit actually that the production, extraction of those minerals, let's say, be it the energy sources or be it metals or something else, it's still hardly possible until there is a war in Ukraine, right? And having in mind actually that the majority of both sources would be located in the eastern part of Ukraine. So to get some kind of the really added value, the practical one, maybe the financial one out of these deals currently would be quite a complicated thing. But on the other hand, to have the country which is interested to establish the peace and finally to come to the production is also a very good and positive development, right? So if the US is making these kind of deals, so we can guess that, this strategic player in the international affairs is really interested finally to establish, the long-lasting peace in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, also maybe to prevent some potential conflicts in the Central Europe. So from this point of view, I would really say that all the developments of this kind, the economic, financial one, the energy, or the deals concerning the minerals in Ukraine, they are very positive, they are very positive. Although I don't see here, a quick financial gain which the United States can get out of these deals. What about other countries? You also asked about other countries. I would not directly relate the role of other great players like China, India, Brazil, or maybe the European Union countries. I would not directly relate actually those potential benefits of the deals on the mineral resource production. But I would say that these countries can also very much contribute when we talk about the creation of a certain motivation for Russia to stop the war. right? Because we also see actually to which kind of a ports, to what kind of a consumers, the oil which is transported through the shadow fleet is finally reaching their customer, right? So if this customer is in China, in India, well, sometimes in Turkey or some other countries, so most probably, well, having the common understanding with these countries that the conflict must be stopped, and then therefore maybe the imports of the fossil fuels from Russia should be also at least lessened. So these kind of agreements would be also very much important, and they would allow us to achieve the goal.
Yes, thank you very much. And now coming back to what you mentioned before, which is of course energy used as even as a target. We know that sometimes in modern warfare, energy infrastructure isn't just a supporting asset, and sometimes strikes can deliver immediate tactical advantages or longer-term strategic assets. So coming into this, we wanted to ask what has been the impact of repeated attacks on Ukraine energy grid in the ongoing war, especially considering civilian and economic damage and the country's ability to recover and rebuild.
Yes, well, I would say that it's also not the secret what's the aim, what's the goal of these attacks, right? So the aim actually of these attacks is to create a certain social disturbances, right? And then actually to have the impact on the political decisions made in the same Ukraine. There is an expectation actually that the freezing people who don't have access to the heat, to the gas, during the winter time, during the cold period of time, they will finally raise all the dissatisfaction against the local governments, and then maybe that's a way to replace actually the current institutions and current governmental officials in Ukraine. So that's the aim, right? So well, I would say that the tactics is clear and is being applied for several years. The damage which has been made on Ukrainian energy sector is huge. There is no doubt about that. A lot more than a half, most probably, of the electricity generation capacities have been destroyed. So the damage is counted in billions. But I would say that the goals of these campaigns are not achieved. Well, I still say that the Ukrainians are very much supporting the current government, the current president, and everyone understands actually in what kind of environment they live. And then the Ukrainians really, first of all, do survive, can survive actually even during these kind of the conditions. And they are also demonstrating that they can be quite creative and re-establish the supply quite quickly at the places where it seemed to be almost impossible. And what we also saw actually that, well, currently we live in the situation where Ukraine actually is giving us the lessons, right? How to strengthen the protection, what can be expected, and how to avoid the greatest damages. So we in our region actually are also taking the lessons from Ukraine and strengthening this way our infrastructure at the time when we think that we still have some time. Well, and the third point is also very much important. I would say that there are a lot of international institutions which mobilize the support for Ukraine. And there are a lot of companies, and my company including actually, who contribute to the reconstruction of the Ukrainian energy sector. So we are providing also the humanitarian aid in financial terms and also in goods, in services. And this all basically also strengthens our relations with Ukrainian counterparties. And at the same time, I think that this cooperation will have a very positive impact in the future, because the personal relations are already established and institutional relations are also better established. And therefore, I think that the reforms which are required in Ukraine, they're gonna happen faster, because, well, the Europe is already contributing to the Ukrainian energy sector development, although the conditions are very, unhuman, but well, we start the cooperation which will last. So from this point of view, I see that there is even positive, the positive consequence. Although, of course, would be better actually to have well, infrastructure in place and infrastructure not to be bombed. So yeah, we are very much sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just to move to a conclusion, I wanted to go back again because, of course, you're from Lithuania, so we wanted to know what has been your experience when, in order to remove, not to remove, but to lessen the dependence on Russia. How has our Lithuanian experience been concerning the reducing dependence on Russia by removing from the energy grid, and switching to the European one?
Well, I would say that everything, of course, everything takes time. And for us, basically, to refuse the imports of energy sources from Russia, it also took decades. Yeah, so we were talking about the need to diversify electricity, oil, and gas. Sorry, electricity, oil, and gas imports from Russia. We were discussing that for many years. But currently, we are in the situation where we really don't import any Russian gas, any Russian electricity, and any Russian oil. So there are no imports from Russia at all. And in February, we we really changed the system from UPS IPS. We connected to the continental European system. And our lesson learned is very simple, that really we can survive, and we are doing very well. And this leads actually to the next steps, which attributes to the, well, maybe it will also take time, but at the final stage, our aim is not to consume any fossil fuel at all, so to become climate neutral. So the beginning was diversification from Russian oil. Continuation was, well, stop importing Russian electricity and gas, and continuing on that, basically, we want to have only renewables on our primary energy balance. So I tell it takes efforts, it takes some time, but the conclusion and the experience is very positive. And Lithuania, from the country which was a huge importer of energy resources, currently really implements the strategy where in a decade from today, we should become the net energy exporters, producing the offshore electricity and finally exporting either electricity or hydrogen or synthetic fuel or things related to green energy production. So therefore, I tell that the dependence and certain blackmailing which we experienced actually also brought us to the very necessary decisions to build the LNG terminal, to build oil import terminal, to disconnect from UPS IPS system, and finally then to do, a lot of very positive things, right? So first of all, with the development of the renewable energy sources. So that's our experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It really feels that we're entering new geopolitical era, especially in the sense of balances and powers in energy sector, especially with developing new technologies and changing the whole landscape of dependence on Russian resources, especially when we're talking about Russia's periphery and its neighbors, its post-Soviet space. And of course, energetic independence is one of key elements in this whole discussion. So thank you very much for sharing your insights. It was very interesting. I hope our audience also liked it. Thank you, dear Sara, for helping to conduct the interview. And I really hope to see you soon and to be in touch. So please, dear audience, feel free to explore our other materials. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.